It's a calm morning in the quiet Polish countryside, far from city noise, where Joe and Laura, a married couple, are on a peaceful vacation. Years ago, they were top American secret agents, but now they live like ordinary people, keeping their past hidden. They prefer slow mornings, long walks, and each other's company. Today, they're having breakfast outside when two French travelers staying nearby asked to join them. They chat about their lives, and when the French woman, a doctor, asks what Joe and Laura do, the couple smoothly lies, saying they run a small shop. Nothing exciting. After breakfast, Joe suggests they explore more of the area, but Laura, not feeling well, chooses to rest. She tells him to go without her, so he does, slipping a handgun into his bag just in case. Joe heads into the forest with the French couple and a local guide, enjoying the scenery. But far above, a CIA reconnaissance plane flies toward the same area, until a sudden shot from behind takes it down. The aircraft crashes into the forest with a deafening blast. Hearing the explosion, Joe's instincts kick in. He runs toward the noise. Back at the lodge, Laura spots black smoke and quickly grabs her satellite phone to message him. At the crash site, Joe and the French doctor find the wreckage and the bodies of two pilots, both shot in the head. Joe recognizes them instantly. They were CIA. Searching one of their pockets, he finds a small hard drive and quickly pockets it. Even when the doctor protests that it's not his property and they should leave it alone, but Joe insists, saying it probably holds important secrets. What they don't realize is that the plane's radio is still active and transmitting everything they say directly to CIA headquarters, where agents hear Joe mention the hard drive. And one of them rushes to tell the CIA director, who is immediately alarmed because this specific drive contains evidence of his own crimes. Furious, the director demands to know the exact crash site location, and his agent tells him it's deep in the Polish woods. Back on the ground, Joe urges the doctor and the other tourists to head back to the lodge because this area is now too dangerous. But before they can move, a group of armed mercenaries led by a man named Orland emerges from the trees. Surrounding them, Orland questions the local guide about what they're doing there, and the guide nervously claims they are just vacationers who stumbled upon the crash by accident. But Orland then turns to the doctor and demands to know where she's from. And when she refuses to answer, he shoots her without hesitation, killing her instantly in front of everyone. He then steps toward Joe, asking if he found a hard drive among the wreckage. And Joe calmly lies, saying he found nothing, while hiding the drive in his hand. Orland studies him for a moment, trying to decide if he's lying. But Joe's calm, steady demeanor convinces him to back off for now. And Orland orders his men to search for the crash site, while Joe seizes a chance to slip away, managing to steal one of their vehicles and speed off down the road. But the stolen car soon runs out of fuel, forcing him to abandon it. And he quickly overpowers a mercenary on a motorcycle, taking the bike and racing away. Elsewhere, an older man named Chester, still an active government agent unlike Joe, receives a call from the CIA director, who orders him to find Joe in the Polish countryside and retrieve the stolen hard drive, offering double pay if he succeeds. Chester at first questions why they are targeting a man who retired years ago, but when he hears that Joe is in possession of critical evidence, he accepts the mission and heads to Poland. Meanwhile, Orland, frustrated that he's lost track of Joe, shouts into the jungle that if Joe doesn't give himself up, he'll go to the lodge and kill all the tourists, including Laura, hidden nearby. Joe hears this and immediately calls Laura, warning her of the danger. Laura, once a lethal operative herself, instantly shifts into combat mode, grabbing weapons and preparing to fight, then heading to warn the other guests to hide under their beds. Moments later, 3 of Orland's men burst into the lodge, but Laura takes them down with speed and precision. Elsewhere, Chester arrives in the area and tests a new poison he has created on a local driver, killing him in seconds, proving to himself it works perfectly. Joe, exhausted, sneaks into a small shop to rest and uses the landline to call the CIA director, demanding to know why the hard drive is so important, and the director claims it contains sensitive national security data, ordering Joe to return it. But Joe refuses, revealing he knows it actually holds proof of the director's corruption and that of other senior officials, and that he plans to make the information public. Panicking, the director traces Joe's call and tells Chester where to find him, instructing him to kill Joe and take the drive. Later, Joe and Laura talk on the phone, and she assures him she supports his choice, telling him she can handle herself. Then Chester appears, greeting Joe like an old friend, but quickly steering the conversation toward the hard drive. Joe lies, saying Orland took it, but Chester doesn't believe him and urges him to hand it over to avoid a fight, even pouring 2 drinks to ease the tension. But Joe refuses to drink, suspicious. Joe instead asks Chester about Orland, and Chester explains he works for Russian intelligence, and if the Russians get the drive, it could destabilize America. But Joe presses further, asking if Chester truly believes it's full of national secrets rather than evidence of corruption, and Chester shrugs, saying he doesn't care, he just wants to finish the job and get paid. Back at the lodge, Orland's men are holding the tourists hostage, but Laura silently moves upstairs and takes out one guard, then warns the tourists to stay hidden. Downstairs, Orland's men are drinking when they hear a thud, the body Laura just dropped from above, and soon the right-hand man orders a search, only for Laura to kill them one by one until she's finally overpowered and tied to a chair. During the questioning, she reveals she's German, not American, and hints at her and Joe's past reputation as unmatched operatives, which makes the man realize who she is. He orders her to call Joe and demand he bring the hard drive, but when he gives her the satellite phone, she quickly types in a code, triggering an explosion. Elsewhere, Orland and his men find the house where Joe and Chester are holed up, thanks to a villager's tip, and Orland orders 3 men to go in, but when they hesitate, he kills them himself. Inside, Chester asks Joe to help him stand, only to stab him with a syringe containing poison, telling him he has only 24 hours to live unless he hands over the drive. Joe agrees to give it. After they deal with Orland, and Chester shoots a nearby power pole to cut the lights, Orland's men attack, filling the air with bullets and smoke grenades, but Joe and Chester fight back. During the chaos, Chester grabs the hard drive and knocks Joe down before escaping, leaving Joe to face the mercenaries alone. Badly outnumbered and weakened, Joe fights his way through, only to be blown back by a grenade. Orland arrives and asks why Joe didn't just hand over the drive, and when Joe asks why it matters so much, Orland admits it contains proof of the CIA director's crimes, and that he shot down the plane to get it, meaning he and Joe actually share the same goal of exposing corruption. Realizing this, they decide to work together to stop Chester, and Joe calls the CIA director to taunt him, saying he will bring him down. The director smugly says Chester already has the drive and reminds Joe about the poison, but Joe reveals the dose wasn't enough to kill him. Furious, the director orders drones to kill them both. Soon 2 armed drones appear, firing at their car, forcing them into a dangerous chase through the countryside until they crash, escape on foot, and destroy one drone. But then Orland turns on Joe, only to be shot by Laura, who appears just in time. The second drone attacks, causing a huge explosion, but Joe and Laura survive, badly hurt. The next morning, Joe tends to Laura's wounds by a lake, and when Chester suddenly appears, Joe reveals he actually poisoned Chester earlier, not himself, and offers the antidote only if Chester returns the hard drive and helps expose the CIA director. Chester, with no choice, agrees, and the 3 uneasy allies set off together to finish the job.